You really wore that to a gala. The words cracked through the ballroom like a whip, sharp enough to slice through the music, the chatter, even the clink of champagne glasses. Every head turned, and at the center of it all stood a woman in a fire-red dress, sequins blazing under the chandelier lips, curved in a smirk meant to draw blood. Her name was Chelsea Hale. 32, young, rich, hungry for the spotlight. She lived for moments like this when cruelty looked like comedy, when the crowd laughed at someone else's expense. And her target that night, Naomi Carter. Naomi was 46, black, a billionaire, the CEO of Titan Global. She didn't come with an entourage, didn't chase photographers, didn't wear anything designed to scream, "Look at me." Instead, she sat quietly at a side table wrapped in a satin gown the color of molten copper. Calm, deliberate, understated. Her hair was pulled into a low bun, her hands resting lightly on a glass of water. She wasn't trying to compete. But to someone like Chelsea, silence looked like weakness. The crowd reacted the way Chelsea wanted. A hedge fund guy chuckled into his whiskey. A pair of women with diamond chokers whispered, "She looks like staff." Someone else muttered, "Maybe she snuck in." The laughter spread like a fire. Naomi didn't flinch. She blinked slowly the way someone does when they've heard the same insult 100 times before. She had. At 19, she'd been turned away from a campus gala because she didn't look the part. At 32, a banker told her billion-dollar dreams weren't for people like her. And now here she was again, same sneer, same laughter, just in a different ballroom. Chelsea leaned closer, swirling her wine like it was part of the performance. "Ballroom couture, darling. You should try it sometime." "Oh, wait, maybe you can't afford it." The crowd gasped, then giggled. Naomi's hand traced the stem of her glass, not nervously, but with purpose, as if grounding herself. Her silence wasn't empty, it was waiting. The program on stage had started, a jazz quartet played, but the real show was happening at Naomi's table. A young reporter, half hidden with her phone angled from inside her clutch, started recording. A wealthy investor from Tokyo whispered to his wife, "They don't know who she is." Still most laughed with Chelsea. Chelsea's voice cut through again. "Tell me, miss, whoever you are, did you sneak in hoping to meet someone important tonight?" Naomi finally looked up, her gaze steady. Her voice, when it came, was quiet, but sharp enough to cut marble. "I already did." The room stilled. For a second, no one understood. Chelsea laughed louder, as if to cover the crack in the air. But Naomi had planted the seed. Chelsea couldn't stop herself. She raised her glass again, eyes glinting with arrogance. "Sweetheart, if you're lost, the service entrance is down the hall. That dress would look perfect. Carrying trays." Laughter erupted. A man actually clapped. Naomi didn't move, didn't react. Her stillness was unnerving. Chelsea wanted a reaction, anger, embarrassment, anything. Instead, Naomi gave her nothing. And that nothing started to turn the crowd. Some shifted in their seats. A few lowered their eyes. The young reporter whispered into her mic, "This isn't banter, it's humiliation." But Chelsea wasn't finished. She stepped closer, heels clicking like a countdown. She lifted her glass over Naomi's copper gown, and with a fake gasp tilted her wrist. A stream of red wine splashed across Naomi's lap, blooming like blood against flame. The room gasped. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." Chelsea feigned innocence. "Oops," she said, dripping with mock sympathy. "Guess dry cleaning isn't included in charity donations." A nervous ripple of laughter followed. Naomi looked down at the stain, then back up at Chelsea. Calm, composed, no crack in her face. She picked up her napkin and placed it gently over the fabric, not to hide the stain, but to mark it, as if logging the insult in her own quiet ledger. Chelsea smirked, certain she'd won. She snapped her fingers. Security escort this woman out. She doesn't belong here. Two guards started through the crowd. People held their breath. Chelsea leaned toward her friends, loud enough for half the room to hear. This is a Billionaires Gala, not a community center. And then Naomi finally moved. Slowly, deliberately. She reached into her clutch, pulled out her phone, and with one swipe said calmly, "Initiate Protocol 7. The guards froze. Chelsea rolled her eyes. What is this calling an Uber? But the voice on the other end answered instantly. Yes, Ms. Carter. Pulling up the Hale contract now. The reporter's eyes went wide. She caught the name Carter. Investors straightened in their seats. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Naomi Carter. Titan Global. Naomi didn't raise her voice, but every word carried. Effective immediately, withdraw. The documents, freeze all negotiations, halt every wire transfer. The jazz band faltered, mid-song. Phones buzzed. Whispers rose into gasps. Chelsea scoffed, though her smirk wavered. You think a phone call makes you important? You're embarrassing yourself. Naomi slipped the phone back into her clutch, then stood slow and graceful. The copper gown shimmered beneath the chandeliers, the wine stain glowing like a scar she refused to hide. She lifted her gaze to Chelsea, then to the entire room. My name, she said, is Naomi Carter. I am the CEO of Titan Global. And tonight you mocked the woman funding your future. I am the principal backer of the Hale merger, the $4.9 billion deal your company cannot survive without. The room erupted. Glasses clattered, voices shouted. She owns the deal, someone yelled. Chelsea's face drained of color. She fumbled for her phone, refreshing her inbox with shaking fingers. The contract was gone. Naomi stepped forward, her presence heavy, undeniable. You poured wine on me. You called security on me. You told me I don't belong. But here's the truth. Without me, you don't belong. Without my signature, your empire collapses before sunrise. The words landed like a hammer. Guests who had laughed minutes earlier now raised their glasses toward her in apology. Investors nodded in respect. Even the servers, once frozen, began clearing her table with quiet reverence. Chelsea stumbled her heel, catching the hem of her own dress. This is absurd. You're bluffing. Naomi's tone was ice. Check your inbox. Chelsea's screen lit up. The contract vanished before her eyes. Her red lips trembled. The crowd saw it, the unraveling. Naomi didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her power wasn't in shouting. It was in silence that waited, in the calm that let arrogance dig its own grave. The room was hers now, and she used it. I came here quietly, she said. I didn't ask for attention. But arrogance drags dignity into the open. You wanted to know if I belong here. I don't just belong. I own the room. And as of this moment, that merger no longer exists. The deal is canceled, effective immediately. Chaos. Investors bolted for the exits, phones pressed to their ears. The host of the gala tugged nervously at his bow tie, realizing too late he'd let humiliation turn into spectacle. The reporter whispered breathlessly into her mic. She just killed a $4.9 billion contract. Live. Chelsea reached out desperate, her voice cracking. Wait, we can fix this. We can talk. Naomi paused, her copper gown glowing under the chandeliers. She turned her head slightly, her voice steady and final. Respect is not negotiable. Not at $4. Not at 4 billion. Not ever. And then she walked. The crowd parted as though gravity itself moved around her. Some lowered their eyes in shame. Others raised their glasses in salute. Every step of her heels on the marble floor was louder than the band, louder than Chelsea's laughter had been louder than the murmurs still rippling through the stunned assembly. It was the sound of dignity reclaiming its place. Chelsea was left standing alone, trembling, her empire unraveling in real time. Her friends avoided her eyes. Her validation vanished, and the stain she thought would humiliate Naomi had instead become her own scarlet letter. Naomi didn't look back. She didn't need to. Quiet power doesn't gloat. It leaves echoes. And that's what lingered after she stepped into the night, a silence so heavy it reshaped the very air, a reminder burned into every witness's memory that cruelty masquerading as power will always collapse under the weight of real strength. So what do you think? Was Naomi right to pull the plug on a multi-billion-dollar deal in front of everyone, or was it too much letting pride dictate business? Have you ever seen arrogance exposed this way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear the stories you've lived, the rooms you've walked into where dignity had to fight to exist.